Hey guys, Travis Gillespie. In the last video, we looked at identifying and categorizing, being able, really just basically being able to name points, lines, planes, segments, and rays. But it's also important to be able to identify and name angles, and that's what we'll do here. Let's go and classify a few. So I'm going to get us some more space here. Just scroll on down. We've got angles. Cool. Just need a little bit more space. Uh, there we go. And just scoot this over here. Cool. Let's look at this figure. And let's go ahead and identify a right angle. So a right angle, just going to draw one up real quick here. A right angle, it looks like an L, and it is equal to 90 degrees. Although I actually see a right angle here, and oh yeah, actually do the 90 degrees here, and well, how do I go ahead and actually name this right angle? Well, let's remember a right angle or an angle is formed with two rays and a vertex being the middle letter, so the vertex in there. So to actually name and write this, I've got to use my angle symbol here. I'm going to use my angle symbol. Oops, that didn't come out too well. I'm just going to undo it real quick and rewrite it. So my angle symbol, and then I'm going to use the letters R, N, Q. Notice that the vertex, the middle letter, is also going to be the middle letter in when I name it. So call this guy R, N, my vertex, and Q. Oh, can I rewrite it the other way? Yeah, absolutely. So I could write this. I'm just going to say I could write it R and Q, or I could write it as angle Q N R. Remember, be careful and make sure that your vertex is the middle letter when naming your angles Q N R. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and label an acute angle. And an acute angle, remember, an acute angle, that's not working, so change my color up. An acute angle is less than 90 degrees. A straight line. Draw another line off in this direction. This is less than 90 degrees. It doesn't look like an L. And do I see any acute angles here in the figure? Absolutely. I see two, actually. I see one that is 20 degrees, and I see another angle that is 70 degrees. Both of these are angles that are less than 90 degrees. Therefore, it makes it an acute angle. So let's go ahead and name these two acute angles, but before we do, I'm going to try a new color out here and just separate out the old ones. Yeah, so now, or the right angle, and now I'm just dealing with the acute angle. And to name these, well, let's start with this one. Remember the vertex being in, so I would go P in Q is one angle. Don't forget your angle symbol, angle P, Q, in, or Q and P. Don't forget, you want your vertex to be the middle letter, and I made a mistake already. So not a big deal. I was writing pretty fast. And just say, okay, P in Q is actually my, my way of writing that acute angle, or again, angle Q in P. And fix that P up just a little bit. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and actually label the other acute angle here. And I'm going to say, well, that is angle. And remember, you want the vertex to be the middle numbers or letters. So you will say M, N, R. Oop. This will be M, N, R, or angle R, N, M. now you can notice, hey, notice that the vertex for these angles are in, and they are also the middle letter when naming your angles. Cool. I'm just going to separate this guy out again. Let's go ahead and label an obtuse angle. We'll change the color here. Cool. So let's go ahead and label that obtuse. Just going to write it out there. Obtuse angle. And the thing you want to remember about an obtuse angle is that it is greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. So here's an angle that would be greater than 90 degrees. But you might look on this figure and say, hey, Travis, you know what, I'm looking here, and I actually don't see any angles that are greater than 90 degrees. But then one of you might actually say, well, wait a second, Travis. Why don't I add 90 and 20 degrees together? So 90 degrees plus 20 degrees. Well, yeah, that actually equals 110 degrees. So the way you label this is you would say, hey, angle R in P is an obtuse angle. Or can you label it the other way? Absolutely, they're the same thing. So P in R. Angle P in R is an obtuse angle. Cool. So someone else might actually say, hey, you know, Travis, there is another obtuse angle. What if you add 70 and 90, so 70 plus 90 degrees? Well, those equal 160. Therefore, they too are obtuse angle, an obtuse angle. So this would be angle, well, M N Q or QNM. QNM are obtuse angles. Cool, so I'm just going to border this guy off and then say, you know what, I don't want to use that color though. Stick with the same color I had before, and now let's take a look at some complementary angles. But first, I'm just going to move these guys over some just so I can. Cool, so I think that's going to work, and now, awesome. I'm able to see and move forward from here when we look at complementary angles. Just choose my new color here and complementary, so complementary angles. Complementary angles, they are two angles that add or put together, they make up a sum of 90 degrees. Just drawing out two angles here. So if I had one angle that was 37 degrees here, and 53 degrees over here, yeah, they would add together to make 90 degrees. And you can see that highlighted really right here. Alrighty. Well, what about up here on the chart, on the diagram? Are there two angles that, when added together, make 90 degrees? Yeah, absolutely. I've got angle MNR and PRNQ that make up 90 degrees. So how would I name that? Well, for a complementary angle, I would say, hey, up above in this chart here, or diagram, angle M in R and in R 70 degrees, and angle PNRQ are complementary angles. When added together, 20 plus 70 is 90. And let's take a look at supplementary angles here. Just gonna separate these out and say, hey, supplementary angles are two angles put together that form 180 degrees. I misspelled that. So do you actually see, let me just show you real quick what I'm saying here. So I have got two angles. Cool, so let's just say that, hey, this is 127 degrees. And let's just say that this is 53 degrees. Yeah, when I add these together, they create 180 degrees. However, my diagram, do you see any angles, two angles that create 180 degrees? Well, sure you do. Um, you see that when you add 90 and 20 together, you have 110. And when you add 110 and 70, that is 180 degrees. Well, let's do that. How would you go about naming 90 plus 20 and then adding that and creating a sum of 180 when you add it to 70 degrees? Well, let's go and look at this. You would say, well, angles R in P is 110 degrees. R in P and angle M in R. Or I could say R in M. Let's do that. Angle R in M are supplementary angles because they form to make 180 degrees. Great, cool stuff. Well, we've gone over not only how to name and label our points, lines, segments, planes, and rays, but now actually categorizing and naming angles as well. This is cool stuff. See you next time.